Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. After finding an emotional Beetle with a life of its own in a junkyard, young Maggie discovers her talent for motor racing. Today we will recap the story of the 2005 movie, Herbie Fully Loaded. Herbie is an old race car that for a long time was the best on the track. It never lost a competition. The vehicle and its owner venture to the most unlikely places together, until the day Herbie has an accident and, after a string of defeats, is sent to the junkyard. When it gets there, he is met by Dave, the owner of the place, and right away they don't get along. The truck driver directs Dave not to irritate that car because it's proud of itself. When Dave goes to remove the Beetle from the trailer, Herbie gets oil all over his shoes. The driver helps push the vehicle while Dave pulls it by the chains. Herbie struggles not to be taken, but decides to go for it when he finds an exit. Just as he is about to escape from the junkyard, he runs over a trap and his tires are punctured. Now the Beetle will have to face its fate and awaits, along with the other used vehicles, the day when it will be crushed. Weeks later, across town, Maggie Peyton arrives on her skateboard for her graduation. The girl is graduating in journalism and, after the ceremony, she celebrates with her father the beginning of a new cycle. The man is extremely proud of his daughter, as she is the first in the family to graduate from college. Maggie's mother passed away when the girl was still a child, but Ray says that if his wife were alive, she would be proud too. Just then, Charisma appears with her new car. Her parents gave it to her as a graduation present. In 1 month, Maggie and Charisma will move to New York and share an apartment while they start their careers in the job market. Ray is a coach and invites Maggie to come and watch her brother, Ray Jr., at the racetrack. When they get there, they meet Sally, one of Peyton's team sponsors. As usual, Ray Jr. has an accident while making a turn. The man is training for NASCAR, a professional racing competition that will take place in a few weeks. The problem is that he doesn't have much talent for the sport. That night when she gets home, Maggie looks at the paintings on the living room wall and remembers her grandfather, one of the greatest runners of all time. The man is the biggest inspiration for the girl who, as a teenager, wanted to be just like him. However, everything changed when Maggie had an accident on the track and was hospitalized for 2 weeks. Since then, her father has forbidden her to race again. Before going to sleep, Ray informs her that the next morning he will take his daughter to buy a graduation present. As promised, the other day they go to the junkyard so Maggie can choose a car. Herbie spots the young woman as she tries out an old race car and decides he wants to go home with her. The little Beetle struggles to get close to the girl, but it's unable to move because its rear wheels have been removed. At that moment, the vehicle is towed away to be destroyed. As his last resort, Herbie honks the horn to get Maggie's attention, but the young woman takes an interest in the Nissan that is right in front of him. She is about to close the deal with Dave when the Beetle is picked up by the crane to be thrown into the machine. However, Herbie manages to get loose and falls on top of the Nissan. With no other alternatives, Maggie decides to keep the Beetle and it finally gets a new home. Upon arriving home, Ray makes some minor repairs to the vehicle and asks the girl to drive to the shop so Kevin can take a look at it. When he gets into the car, the glove compartment opens and inside is a letter from Herbie's previous owner in which he asks the new owner to take good care of the vehicle. As soon as she starts the Beetle, he drives off on his own and Maggie is frightened. Herbie takes the girl to the garage and almost runs over Kevin. Upon seeing his old friend, the boy is struck by how different she looks. Kevin has been in love with her since high school, and they haven't seen each other since Maggie went off to college. The young man offers to refurbish the Beetle, but first, he needs to take it for a test drive. As they drive through the streets, Herbie lets off a great deal of smoke. Embarrassed, the girl thinks about returning that old thing, but Herbie doesn't intend to let that happen. Suddenly, the vehicle lifts up and begins to move on its 2 rear wheels. Maggie loses control of the vehicle and the next thing she knows, she realizes that she has ended up at a sports car exhibition. There, she meets her old schoolmates and Tripp Murphy, the reigning Nextel Cup champion. When the man shows up at the event, the public gathers around him to get his autograph. Herbie starts honking and Maggie opens the hood to turn off the horns. At that instant, the Beetle sprays oil all over her shirt and Maggie has to change. Luckily, Kevin finds a racing uniform inside the trunk, along with a helmet. After changing, the girl gets into the vehicle and Herbie drops her on top of her helmet. When Tripp sees that car, he directs the pair to return it to the circus. With his pride wounded, Herbie refuses to be belittled in this way and uses his rear view mirror to scratch the side of that guy's car. To solve this, the audience suggests a race and Tripp accepts the contest. Maggie tries to get out of the vehicle to apologize, but the Beetle locks all its doors and windows and heads for the track. Tripp joins them and Crash starts the race. Just then, Herbie's gears align and the race begins. Maggie tries to take control of the situation, but the Beetle won't allow her to drive. Despite being an old car with old parts, Herbie manages to catch up with his rival and Tripp plays dirty to get them off the track. At that moment, Maggie's competitive spirit comes to the fore and she teams up with Herbie in search of victory. Now, the vehicle allows the young woman to pilot it, and they both work together to reach Tripp. Again, the man tries to take them down, but is surprised by Herbie's maneuvering. As they approach the finish line, the Beetle climbs the safety bar to take the lead and narrowly wins the race. At the end of the competition, Herbie is finished and Tripp is unhappy that he lost to an amateur. Back at the garage, Maggie tells Kevin that she thinks it wasn't her who won that race, but Herbie. Obviously, the boy does not take this story seriously and congratulates the girl on her great talent. After all, she has just beaten the Nextel Cup champion in a 1963 Beetle. The next morning, Maggie sees her father and brother arguing and discovers that they have lost another sponsor due to the team's poor performance. When Sally arrives in her yellow Beetle, Herbie falls in love at first sight. The woman takes a videotape and shows Ray the recording of a street race. The man is surprised to find out that the Beetle his daughter bought at the junkyard was able to win a competition, but is also angry to learn that Maggie has raced again. However, to reassure her father, the young woman claims that it was not she who was driving, but Max. From then on, she will use this name as her pseudonym at the races. While Maggie quietly celebrates her victory, Tripp is upset that he lost. Larry tries to reassure him and says that nobody cares about a street race. However, the competitor cannot get over his bruised ego and says he wants a rematch. To this end, he orders his team to organize a 2-day race, because he is sure that Max will show up. When Maggie returns to Kevin's workshop, the boy shows her the project he is designing to make a transformation in Herbie. However, the girl claims that she can no longer race, because when she suffered the accident, she promised her father that she would never again participate in a competition and ended up lying to him. While the young ones are chatting, Herbie spots a newspaper ad for a race for which the prize is $10,000. When Maggie gets into the car, the Beetle swings its hood, causing the newspaper to end up on the windshield. When she sees the advertisement for the prize, the young woman finds the solution to get the money to move to New York. Kevin says that if Maggie agrees to take part in the race, he will refurbish the Beetle for free, and if the young woman is victorious, they will split the prize. Even though she is afraid, the girl agrees to the deal, and the duo starts the hard work to transform the old Beetle into a great racing car. After washing the vehicle, they change some parts and Maggie starts training. When the overhaul is over, Herbie even gets a sunroof. Meanwhile, Tripp and Crash try to unlock the secret of the Beetle, and the man aims to find out what's under the hood of that car. That night, Maggie overhears Jay and Sally talking and learns that her father is about to lose his last investors due to her brother's poor performance at the track. This motivates her even more to do her best in that race. When the day of the big competition finally arrives, Tripp is surprised to see the turbocharged Beetle and asks how Maggie and Max met. The girl tries to roll him up, but is saved by Kevin, who appears soon after. In the first phase of the competition, dozens of cars take to the track, but only one will be the winner. The competitor who wins that race will compete with Tripp the next day, and if he can beat the champion, he will take home $10,000. As expected, Herbie and his running partner manage to defeat all the other runners and qualify for the next stage. While watching the taping, Tripp spots a band of red hair coming out of Max's helmet and discovers that the pilot is actually Maggie. That night, Herbie spots the yellow Beetle once again and drives up to it. When the couple realizes what has happened, the girl says that her car has a personality of its own and she knows that she has to accept this. Kevin gives his friend a necklace as a gift for good luck the next day. Just as the young men were about to kiss, Tripp appears and turns on the headlight in their direction. The man asks Kevin to leave them alone and says he wants to have a private conversation with Maggie. As the boy leaves, Tripp asks why the girl is not the one driving her own car, since racing is in her blood. The man also says that he only became a racer because he admired Maggie's grandfather so much. Finally, he asks the young woman if she would like to feel what it is like to drive a real race car and hands her the keys to his vehicle. At this point, Herbie becomes jealous and watches intently as his partner gets into another automobile. While Maggie goes for a ride, Tripp takes the opportunity to investigate the Beetle. However, Herbie doesn't relent and sprays fuel in his face. He then slams the hood over the guy's head. Tripp then takes a tool from his box and strikes several blows at the vehicle in an attempt to destroy it. However, Herbie's body is extremely resistant and does not suffer any scratches. When the man turns his back on him, the Beetle takes the opportunity to mock his enemy. Minutes later, Maggie appears and says that this was the most incredible experience of her life. Then Tripp makes her a proposition. The man suggests that they raise the stakes, so that the winner of the race that will take place the next day, in addition to taking the $10,000, will also take the loser's car. Initially, Maggie is resistant and doesn't want to make the bet, but she remembers her father and this makes her change her mind. The girl knows that Tripp's car is worth a lot of money and this money could help her father, who is almost without any sponsors. Moreover, she is sure that she and her Beetle can win the race, so she decides to make the bet. When Herbie realizes what has just happened, he feels betrayed. When she wakes up the next day, she finds her best friend Charisma in the kitchen. The girl suggests that they advance their trip to New York. However, Maggie tells her that she has a competition to attend that day and invites her friend to accompany her. They go to Kevin's workshop, and the boy informs them that Herbie is freaking out. He asks the girl to talk to his car, but the truth is that Maggie makes Herbie even angrier by telling him that he has to do what she tells him to do. The two cars stand side by side at the starting line until they get the signal to start the race. Herbie shoots ahead, but is constantly being overtaken. As she approaches the finish line, the Beetle brakes and purposely loses the race. Maggie gets out of the vehicle and Tripp asks her to show her true identity to the world. As she takes off her helmet, everyone is surprised, especially Ray. Kevin tries to comfort the girl and asks her to get Herbie so they can leave. At that moment, Tripp informs him about the bet and the Volkswagen is taken away. Furious, the boy leaves, and Ray goes to talk to his daughter. The man is disappointed with Maggie because she has lied to him to his face. The girl tries to explain herself, but her father is so angry that he just turns his back and leaves. That same day, Maggie decides to go to New York with her friend, but Charisma manages to convince her to come back and do what she really loves. The girl goes after Tripp and asks him to return her car, but the man informs her that Crash has just taken it for a ride. However, in reality, Herbie has ended up in a monster truck competition, where he will be completely destroyed. To start the show, the Beetle is hit by several cars at the same time. Seeing her friend in that situation, Maggie tries to go there to help him, but is barred by the security guard. She meets the owner of the place and says that she wants to buy her car back. The old man then promises that if the Beetle can get out of there in one piece, the young woman can take it back for free. Just then, a monster truck appears and prepares to eliminate Herbie. While Charisma distracts the security guard, Maggie makes her way down the bleachers and into the arena. She must dodge the vehicles to avoid being run over as she tries to get closer to her car. Upon seeing the young girl, Herbie is extremely happy and his hopes are renewed. Just as Maggie is about to be run over by the truck, the Beetle appears and uses a maneuver to get her friend through the sunroof. Next, Crash is ejected from the driver's seat, and the duo begins to work together to get out of the place. Herbie manages to dodge all the vehicles that appear in front of him, and must escape from the gigantic truck that intends to crush him. They use another car as a ramp to jump on the back of the truck and destroy the vehicle. After defeating them all, the girl leaves with her Beetle and takes it directly to Kevin's workshop. When he sees Herbie's condition, the boy is terrified, but agrees to make peace with Maggie. The next day, the couple goes to watch Ray Jr. race, but the man has another accident. This time, he has to be taken to the hospital and discovers that he has lost the sense of depth in his left eye. The doctor states that the man is in no condition to race on Sunday. Ray Jr. tries to convince his father to let Maggie compete in his place, but the man refuses to do so. The young woman says that all she ever wanted was to be on the racetrack and asks why her father doesn't support her since she has only had one accident and her brother has had several. Ray then claims that the girl is very much like his mother and he has already lost her once, so he can't lose her again. Kevin makes some calls to try to get parts to fix Herbie, but his supplier refuses to deliver anything to him before the boy pays off his debt. Just then, Ray Jr. shows up and asks his sister to take his place in Sunday's NASCAR competition, regardless of his father's opinion. However, Maggie only agrees to participate in the race if she can race with Herbie. Therefore, her brother calls his entire team to restore the vehicle in time. They change all the bodywork and the tires, which already gives the vehicle a new look. The next step is to paint the Beetle and make it even more beautiful. On Sunday, when he arrives at the stadium where the race will take place, Tripp spots the Beetle and goes after Crash to ask him why he didn't put an end to that car as he was told. Larry tries to relieve the tension by telling Tripp about a new commercial contract he has signed with a brand, but nothing can calm Tripp down at that moment. In that instant, he is faced with a remote chance of being dethroned. Before the race, Maggie decides to have a chat with her Beetle and, after asking for forgiveness, thanks Herbie for not abandoning her. The pair make their way to the starting line and attract all the spotlight. When Ray sees his daughter on TV, he gets anxious. He does not want Maggie to risk her life on the track, but at the same time he is very proud of her. After all the competitors change their steering wheels and check their safety equipment, the commentator asks them to start their engines and the racers take 2 warm-up laps. When the competition finally gets underway, Herbie and Maggie are left eating dust while all the other vehicles shoot ahead. However, the pair soon catch up and advance in the competition. During the break, Ray decides to leave the TV and goes to watch his daughter drive live. After the first pit stop to change tires, the competitors are still firmly in the race. Tripp is in the lead, but Herbie soon catches up. Just then, they're cornered by other vehicles, and when all seems lost, Maggie hears her father's voice telling her that she is capable of winning the race. This gives the girl the strength to give her best and get out of the ambush. The big problem now is that Herbie is losing oil and will not be able to finish the race without fixing it. During the pit stop, the mechanics manage to patch up the tank, but Herbie can't have any more crashes, otherwise he won't make it to the end. They resume at a disadvantage, but are soon on Tripp's side. At this point, there is only half a lap to go, and the two cars continue, side by side in the lead. Tripp tries to push his opponents off the track and the sticker on Herbie's tank starts to come off. As the man prepares to deliver the final blow, Maggie brakes the car, then it hits the wall and rolls over. With the track blocked, the duo climbs the fence with a maneuver never seen before. They take the lead and win the competition. In that instant, Maggie becomes the first female winner of a NASCAR championship. The girl celebrates the victory with her family and friends while Tripp angrily walks across the lawn claiming that the car is alive. After years of waiting, Kevin finally gets a kiss from Maggie and the girl thanks him for all his support. Weeks later, Ray directs Herbie to come home early because there is a big race approaching. Now that the Beetle has found his soulmate, he decides to take her on a date. So, what did you think of this movie? Let us know in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like it and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.